A man survives 2.5 years in Auschwitz. He witnesses the gas chambers, the crematoria, the daily torture. He builds a secret army of over 1,000 inmates. He executes one of history's most daring escapes. He fights in the Warsaw Uprising. And after all that, he is arrested, tortured, and sentenced to death. Not by the Nazis, but by his own country. This is the unbelievable true story of Witold Pilecki, the volunteer. To understand this paradox, you have to understand the man. Witold Pilecki was forged in conflict. Born in 1901 to a noble Polish family in the Russian Empire, he came of age fighting for a free Poland. As a young man, he fought against the Bolsheviks in the Polish-Soviet War, a decorated hero of the cavalry. When Germany invaded Poland in September 1939, Captain Pilecki was there, fighting a losing battle against the Blitzkrieg. When his country fell, he refused to surrender. He went underground, co-founding one of the very first resistance organizations, the Secret Polish Army. By 1940, the resistance was hearing whispers about a new, brutal German camp, Auschwitz. They knew it was a place of terror, but they had no hard intelligence. They needed to know what was happening inside. Was it a prison camp? A slave labor camp? Something worse? The mission was deemed a suicide run, but one man, a 39-year-old cavalry officer, a devoted husband, and the father of 2 young children, raised his hand. His plan was simple and insane. He would walk into a łapanka, a common German street roundup in Warsaw, and allow himself to be arrested. On September 19, 1940, he said goodbye to his life and walked calmly toward the chaos. He carried the papers of Tomasz Serafiński. As the soldiers shoved him into a truck, his mission began. He was prisoner 4859, and he was the first spy in Auschwitz. A report from hell. I said farewell to everything I had hitherto known on this earth, Pilecki later wrote. The reality of Auschwitz was a systematic, industrial-scale horror beyond anything the resistance had imagined. The daily struggle was simply to survive, to endure the backbreaking labor, the starvation rations of watery soup and sawdust bread, and the constant random violence of the SS guards. But Pilecki's mission wasn't just to survive, it was to resist. He began organizing. He created the Union of Military Organization, the ZOW, a secret network built on a brilliant cell system of 5s. Each member recruited 4 others they trusted, but those new members wouldn't know anyone else in the network. It was designed to be resilient. If one cell was captured and tortured, they couldn't betray the entire organization. The ZOW's mission was threefold: improve inmate morale, smuggle in food and medicine, and most importantly, gather intelligence. Starting in October 1940, Pilecki began writing. On scraps of paper, he detailed everything he saw: the construction of new crematoria, the horrific medical experiments, the use of a new chemical called Zyklon B. He described the arrival of trains packed with European Jews and the horrifying truth of the gas chambers. He was documenting the Holocaust from the inside. These messages were smuggled out through a network of daring inmates who worked outside the main camp and passed to the Polish Home Army in Warsaw. The unheeded warning Pilecki's reports were the most important intelligence coming out of occupied Europe. He wasn't just a witness, he was an analyst. He detailed the camp's command structure, the guard rotations, and the precise mechanics of the genocide. His intelligence was so detailed, so horrific, that some Allied commanders in London dismissed it. They believed it had to be an exaggeration, Polish resistance propaganda. The truth of Auschwitz was simply too monstrous for the outside world to comprehend. Pilecki, risking his life with every smuggled word, grew increasingly desperate. He wasn't just reporting, he was pleading for action. He urged the Polish Home Army to stage an attack to liberate the camp from the outside, providing maps and detailed plans for the ZOW to rise up from within. He even suggested that the Allies could airdrop weapons or even a small contingent of Polish paratroopers into the camp. But the Home Army command, stretched thin and outgunned, ultimately decided such an operation was impossible. The risk was too high, the chances of success too low. Inside the camp, the Gestapo was closing in. They knew there was a leak, and they were hunting for the source. After 949 days in hell, Pilecki realized his mission had reached its end. The Allies weren't coming. This is one of the most difficult questions of the war. The Allies had the intelligence but believed acting on it was too risky. The escape from Auschwitz was considered impossible. But Pilecki was a military planner. He and two comrades, Jan Redzai and Edward Ciesielski, got themselves assigned to a night shift at a bakery, which was located just outside the main camp fence. They had a plan. One of them had secretly made a duplicate key to the bakery's front door. On the night of April 26, 1943, under the cover of a thunderstorm, they made their move. They overpowered an SS guard, cut the phone and alarm lines, and used their key to walk out the front door. They ran for their lives, dodging German patrols for days, until they finally made it to safety. Pilecki had done it. He had infiltrated hell, built an army, and escaped to tell the tale. He immediately wrote what is now known as Witold's Report, a comprehensive first-hand account of the Auschwitz death machine. He delivered it to the leaders of the Home Army, expecting it to change the course of the war. But it didn't. The world still didn't act. So Pilecki did the only thing he knew how to do. He went back to fighting. He served as a commander in the brutal, tragic Warsaw Uprising of 1944. When the uprising was crushed, he was captured by the Germans and spent the rest of the war in a POW camp. He had survived the Nazis twice. The betrayal. When the war ended, Poland was not free. It had been traded from one tyranny to another, now under the control of a Soviet-backed communist regime. Pilecki, a hero loyal to the independent, non-communist Polish government in exile, was seen as a threat. Still, he accepted one final undercover mission. In late 1945, he returned to Poland to gather intelligence on the Soviet takeover and the persecution of his former comrades from the Home Army. It was a world of secret police, informants, and paranoia, and his luck finally ran out. On May 8, 1947, he was arrested by the UB, the brutal communist secret police. He was taken to Mokotów prison in Warsaw, the same city he had fought to defend. And there, the real horror began. He was brutally tortured for months. His torturers, his fellow Poles, tried to break him, to force a false confession. During a final secret visit with his wife, Maria, he told her something that revealed the depth of his suffering. Auschwitz was just a game. The treatment he received at the hands of his countrymen was worse than what he had endured from the Nazis. His trial in March 1948 was a sham, a piece of political theater designed to eliminate a hero of the wrong kind. He was falsely accused of espionage for foreign imperialism, planning assassinations, and being an enemy of the people. Despite the torture, he refused to confess to the major charges, protecting his fellow agents to the very end. The verdict was never in doubt. He was sentenced to death. The legacy on May 25, 1948, Witold Pilecki was led into the execution chamber at Mokotów prison. His final reported words were a defiant cry, "Long live free Poland." He was killed with a single shot to the back of the head. To complete the betrayal, the communist regime buried him in an unknown, unmarked grave. Then they tried to erase him from history. For over 40 years, his name was forbidden. His story was scrubbed from official records. Generations of Poles grew up without ever hearing of one of their nation's greatest heroes. It wasn't until the fall of communism in 1989 that his story could finally be told. His sentence was annulled. He was posthumously awarded Poland's highest honors. Today, he is revered as a symbol of defiance against both Nazism and communism. His story is a testament to the absolute limits of human courage, but it is also a brutal lesson in the nature of power. A hero is only a hero if their story serves the state. Pilecki's heroism, his loyalty to a free and independent Poland, was a threat to the communist narrative. Outro and segue, Witold Pilecki's fate is a brutal reminder that sometimes a nation's greatest heroes, he was a patriot betrayed and executed by the very country he sacrificed everything to save. But this tragic irony, where a government turns on the Allies who were crucial to its own survival, is a dark pattern that repeats throughout history. Over a century before Pilecki's execution on the American frontier, another legendary warrior made a high-stakes gamble to ally himself with a young, expanding nation. He became a general in their army, saved their settlements, and was celebrated by a future president as their greatest friend. But the nation he saved would reward his loyalty with one of the most devastating betrayals in American history. His name was Pushmataha. To learn how his story of loyalty was met with betrayal, click on the video on your screen now.